Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Steven here, Northwest Small Batch Brewing. It is time for a little fun brew talk. I don't have a beer this time with me because it's a little early. I'm filming a little early today, and yeah, it's a little early for a beer for me. So, and also, I'm finishing up a brew day. So it's a lot going on here in the Northwest Small Batch HQ. So today's video, I want to talk about something that you may come across, and I've mentioned this before in other videos. Sometimes you come across techniques that are showing up in recipes that you may not have heard of, or don't know how to use, or don't know how to translate it to homebrew world. I've said this before, there's a lot of techniques and things that are done in the commercial brewing world that are not necessary or don't make sense to do at the homebrewing level. However, I do feel like that's where a lot of the gadgets and also, I don't know the word I want to use, but basically things that, you know, the homebrewing like companies, homebrew stores, etc., are always trying to come up with the next fad. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. Like the next big thing to make their sale. They care about making money. I mean, they're a business. I get that, but a lot of times what they're trying to sell you, it's not really going to be something helpful or needed. It may not film, you may not see it before I release this, but I have a video coming up where a year ago I made a beer and I threw some Phantasm powder in it because that was the big fad back then, and they were making big deals about it. You can still buy the stuff, but you almost never hear about it anymore. It's just not a thing anymore. And so there's a lot of stuff like that that I feel like are just kind of the homebrew companies, however you want to call it, way of trying to get people excited to buy more and spend more money. Don't even get me started on whirlpooling unless you're doing large batches. I also think this is part of that same scenario. I could do a whole video on that. I think I have done a video on that, but I swear I could do another one and elaborate on it, on why I think the whirlpool thing is, again, the home brewing company's way of trying to get you to buy stuff you don't really necessarily need at the homebrew level. So at any rate, my whole point getting back to this is that you're going to come across devices, terms, techniques that are in recipes that may be old or maybe have been a fad and aren't really used anymore. So the problem is you need to know what they are, how they work, so that you can adjust your recipe for yourself if you're wanting to try to make that same recipe. So there is something called first wort hops. And for some reason, I really want to say world hops. So I had to say it slowly or I'm gonna say it wrong. So first wort hops. This is a technique that's been around a long time, so it's not new. It's been around probably a good 100 years. And the idea is it enhances the isomerization of the hops. So how does it work? Well, it's really simple. Basically, you're adding your hops early, before the wort boils. Now, in the commercial world, it's done a little differently. I'm not going to get too much into that, but basically as you're transferring the mash to the lauter tun, this is where you would add your worts, what they would call first wort hops. So in the homebrew world, we don't really do this anymore, especially nowadays. I mean, there are still quite a few people using like 3-tier brewing systems, but anybody who's gotten on the bandwagon or is newer to home brewing is using an all-in-one brewing system. I mean, let's be honest, it's really hard to beat the convenience and ease of brew in the bag system. Whatever system you have, there's a lot of them out there. You can make your own, but it's hard to beat. You can make the same quality beer with only one vessel. So how do you adjust, like if a recipe is calling for first wort hops, how do you adjust that for, say, a brew in the bag system? Well, it's simple. In fact, I did it in my last brew just to try it. because I wanted to see how it went. So basically what you do is you drain your grain, whether it's a bag or it's a basket, You pull the basket or the bag out, let all the, liquid drain out as much as you can, squeeze the bag if that's your thing. Set that aside, and before you start heating up your wort to a boil, you put in your 60-minute addition. And then you start heating up to a boil. So by adding the hops at a lower temperature before the boil, you actually release more of the flavor and the aroma into the beer, and the bitterness that it creates from the 60, because you want the bitterness, that's the whole point of a 60-minute hop addition, is going to be more smooth and rounded. It's not going to be as harsh a bitterness. So yeah, I thought it would be worth a try. I mean, you get more flavor, more aroma. The hop oils will oxidize and create more flavor. And I think for me, the thing that's sort of exciting is that it's supposed to also create a smooth the bitterness. Now, does it actually do anything? Does it really work? Well, I mean, that's the question. I haven't done it before. This will be my first time, and I'm not making the beer I'm making right now is not the best example to try this on, but the main thing for me is, even if it doesn't help with, even if you can't tell a difference, and I think they've done, triangle tests and blind tests where people really could not tell a difference between whether you use first wort hops or not. But the nice thing is, if it doesn't make any difference at all, flavor-wise, it's a little easier to toss your hops in for the 60-minute before you start the boil, because then you can put your lid on and you don't have to raise it again right when it comes to a boil to put in your hops. They're already in there. You just have to start the timer when the boiling starts. And if you're using a condensation lid like I do, it's nice because lifting that thing up to add hops is sort of a hassle, so it's one less time you have to lift that lid up. So for me, that's why I like this idea, and I wanted to try it and see if it would make a difference. But if you come across that term, first wort hops, somewhere in a recipe, that's what it stands for. And you have two options, right? You can go ahead and add the hops just before your boil and go with it, or just treat first wort hops like your regular 60-minute addition and add it when the boil starts. Either way, that's the way you can do it. Anyway, I hope that helps if you hadn't heard of that before, and I'll be back in another week with another video or another brew day. Something's going on here that has to do with brewing most of the time. And until then, I hope you all keep on brewing.